Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We're happy to have you here on Tuesday Night Live, and you might notice that we are not by ourselves today. We've got some special guests here. So my name is Father Kent O'Connor. I'm the pastor here at Good Shepherd. And who are you?
I'm Michael Sheeran. I'm a parishioner here at Good Shepherd.
Excellent. And we got some special guests here with us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves here?
I'm Leyden, Ravello Krull.
And I'm Keith Krull. This is my lovely wife. And we are also parishioners here and also parishioners at St. Agnes in Roland Park.
So we're happy to have guests here with us today. They have been doing the Financial Peace University. This side of the room has
a lot of financial
look
peace.
At that. Yes, lots of peace
Ready
going on.
Yeah.
So we normally do a kind of a program where we go from our prayer findings to our media findings to our Let's Go Local, but maybe we could just kind of jump into the Let's Go Local segment first.
I'm okay with that.
All right.
Great.
And so you can kind of tell us, tell us a little bit about yourself first of all, and then tell us a little bit about what your experience has been with this financial peace.
A little bit about me. I grew up south of Wichita in a little town called Mulvane. Moved to Kansas City about 14 years ago to pursue work at Garmin, where I've been for the past 14 years. Love my work there. Like many people in my college years, kind of left my faith and found my way back in my 30s. Had a reversion, and then found my lovely wife through the faith. And that's really the most important parts of my life.
How'd you guys meet?
Our parole officer introduced us because he thought we'd have a lot in common.
What a delightful story. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's one of her favorites.
Give a canned response.
Truth be told, we actually met through a Catholic dating site, CatholicMatch.com.
Okay. That's
Nice
good.
work.
Is that the real story, or you still got another one?
That's
No,
the real
that's
story
the
right there.
Which I think is why the parole officer thing is just slightly less embarrassing. But that's
No, honestly,
No, it's great.
I
A
think
lot of people
of the
actually.
options,
She likes to lead with that
Yeah,
and then
it's-
suck you in.
I was like, you've told me that twice now, so is it true this time?
That's true. Yeah, parole officer thought that, he was reformed, I was reformed.
He started a little local site called Catholic Match.
That's right.
Yeah.
We set things on fire, Catholic Match. Yeah, so I grew up in Queens, New York. Queens in the house. And
This is our first time that Queens has been in
the house.
Yeah. This house.
In the Lord's house. So is that Mary's house? Because it's the Queen's. Okay, anyway. So,
No.
And I grew up there. And like my husband, lost my faith somewhere along the way. And by the grace of God, had a really critical moment in my life where I had this incredible reversion because I hit a really critical low point.
Okay.
And in that low point, I became open to God and his ideas for my life, which were at that point way better than anything I'd done so far. So as a result of coming back to my faith, long story short, I met my husband. They should have let me lead with the parole officer. It really is.
There's a whole cameo appearance. Here he is. No, I think it's one of those things where lows of life have a tendency to kind of make necessities become a lot more clear, right? Like a lot of the other stuff kind of fades.
I think it's so I was in a place where probably I was financially really doing well, and all the markers of the things that make life successful
boxes were checked.
there.
Yeah.
But I was experiencing a spiritual death, and I think that was the miracle, is that God allowed me to have a sense of my own spiritual death and what would happen if I continued down this trajectory.
And this happened independent of each other.
Oh yeah,
Both
no,
of you.
we no.
That's cool.
I told him that if we'd met in my 20s, I probably would have dated him, broken his heart, drove away with his car.
No, we didn't come across each other until we had both re-entered our faith and found our own ways back to God.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That's awesome.
And then we're ready for each other, if we're open to a holy marriage.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So far, you guys, you had already been doing a lot of the Dave Ramsey kind of
We had
baby
both been,
steps before
Yeah.
him. So can you kind of,
So
how did you fall back into that? And this was you, right? Keith leading this.
Well, no,
The baby
actually,
steps.
Leyden was the one that kind of found Dave Ramsey, found this online, and for probably a year was constantly reminding me, like, hey, you listen to this, or she'd forward me an episode of Dave Ramsey, his podcast or something like that, and say, listen to this, and just tell me what you think. I really want to get our debt under control, because I had gotten really comfortable, like I think most people, with, you have to have a mortgage, you have to have a car loan if you're going to get a car that you want, and credit card debt is normal, everybody has it. And I had really just gotten okay with it. I was fine, I have that little loan, and it's this little payment, and it wasn't that big a deal. And when we got married, so we've been married for a little over 2 years now. When we got married, we figured out that we had a combined debt of somewhere around $90,000.
Holy cow.
So this was car loans,
Sure.
student loans, credit cards,
Yeah.
Second mortgage on the house to do some fix up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she finally got my attention. They say the husband is the head of the house, but the wife aims the head, right?
Yeah.
She finally got my attention to this. and we started looking. I was like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
We got to fix this.
Yeah.
So we just immediately started applying some of what we had heard in Dave's shows.
Yeah.
Get that emergency
Sporadically,
fund.
by the way, before you think that we were just
Sure.
really dedicated. No, we did it sporadically
Yeah.
because
You're like, that idea sounds like
good.
a good, yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like too
Yeah.
much of a sacrifice. But also by the grace of God, we both, because we were just that stupid, we decided to sell our house, and that provided for the closure of some of the debt.
Sure.
And then with what we had left over, we thought, okay, it feels really nice not to have, that felt really good. Let's
Yeah.
try that again on a larger scale. So I had been telling him that I actually wanted to do financial peace on the Missouri side
Mm-hmm.
and for Hispanic Ministry. And by just a coincidence, I happened to be talking to you, Father Kent, and behind you was flashing that screen that had all the stuff that's coming up in the ministry. And I see this financial peace thing, and I'm like, oh. So I thought it was providential because we were starting to, like the Southerners say, we're fixing to be serious about it. And so
That's what they say in Queens too, right?
that's exactly what they say. You got to do something about it.
You got a real problem there.
You got a problem there, Sully. You got to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, not perfect. Sort of like anyone's journey back into the faith. There's stumbling blocks.
Yeah.
There's mistakes you make, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Getting signed up for the class and coming in, and as I told you, I think in class when we talked about it, probably the first 2 times I tried to mentally go back and look at the debt that we had cleared. I wasn't even seeing the full picture of what we had done.
Yeah.
The first time I thought about it, I was like, I think we paid off about $30,000. And then I kind of looked at it, I was like, no, I think it was closer to 60. And then, of course, I talked to my wife, and she's like, no, honey, if we go back, it was way more than that.
Yeah.
So
Remember how
now
a
we're on
kid
that path.
that we'd have
and
to
we're
sell
not
a
going
kidney,
back.
and I was like, but not me because I eat a lot of salt. Remember I said, it's you.
I'm not going to stop eating salt, so it's obviously
So it's
got to be
going to have to be your kidney.
Keith.
You better start really drinking a lot of water.
Now, okay, so
Let me stop.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking to Keith and Leyden Krull. They're taking the Financial Peace University class. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to bring them up. I've got the comment line going here. It's been very, very tame this week. So feel free to comment if you got any questions for us. Also, we've never had this
wildly tame.
wildly tame. If you I'm not sure if we've ever had 4 people, so hopefully the sound is working. If it's not, please let us know. And feel free to comment here. And so anyway, just wanted to get a little plug in there.
Thanks,
So
yeah.
carry on.
So, okay, this is first time ever going through FPU.
Mm-hmm.
Budget night is going well, but it brings its own kind of like...
Challenges.
It has its stresses.
Yeah. You
You get to pick one to share. What is one stress that you would want to share?
I'm going to let you go there.
No, each of you can pick one. Each of you.
You're going to put me on the spot.
I'm still putting you on the spot. Yeah.
Okay, I think for me it's how emotional it is talking about money. You know, how you don't want to. I don't want to face certain things about my behaviors around money. The things that, you know, how we're talking with my coworkers about sports related injuries, and I realized that almost all the injuries I sustained had to do with a beauty product or like a hair appliance.
What?
And I was like, I think I just really like those things. I just really like my hair appliances. And so we were talking about like the ways we spend money, and then somehow the conversation got into sports related injuries. And it's like, yeah, this one I got with a curling iron and kneel down. This one I got with a hot iron. And so
But your hair looks fantastic.
thank you. Which I think all the sacrifices are worth, like any athlete. All the sacrifices and injuries are worth it. So, but it's those behaviors about the things that you really want to do and spend on. You know, Keith, once he devotes himself to something, once he commits, he's like full bore, like this is what we're doing. Yeah. And once I commit, I always leave, you know, did I say now when I said commitment?
Yeah, you had 90% at best. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's been the I didn't think that I was that spendy. I thought I was.
Did you think you were the saver of the two?
I think so. I think and I think I am. I really am. It's just that I've always left myself a wide margin. Yeah.
It's like turning the Titanic. We'll do this 1 degree at a time.
I'm just gonna do this. Are we getting on water anyway?
Okay.
We'll be totally fine. We've got enough lifeboats. So it's I hadn't realized how and even if I haven't been spendy like ridiculous, it's the mindset shift that's still really difficult. And that's when you know you're doing something right?
Sure.
For the Lord.
Sure.
Like when you know you're doing something good, you're getting some junk out of the way that will give that relationship with Jesus. Like, so it's an attachment to things that I know are at the root of why I still have a ways to go with my relationship with Jesus. All of this Financial Peace University stuff is revealing is I have attachment to junk, to things. Something other than God. So anyway, that's what it's been like for me.
All right, Keith, your turn.
Well, not so much a budget night realization, but I know I told this story during one of the FPU classes, but one of my real enlightenment moments with this whole program was after my lovely wife had talked me into this. One of the things that they talk about is setting your different budget amounts in different categories, whether it's an envelope system or different savings accounts, however you want to handle it, to separate those funds. And so we had started doing that, and we established about 10 different bank accounts, and we had one specifically for car repairs. And previous to getting into this, anything that ever happened, if I had to fix the truck or if I had to fix something on the house or whatever, always resulted in, well, put it on the credit card and I'll pay it off in the next 2 or 3 months. And I had this incident last February, I think it was, on my way to work, and the truck overheats. Pull over on the side of the road, and there's radiator has blown out. There's water all over the ground, steam coming out from underneath. So call the insurance company, get a tow. There's an auto place right next to my office. Take it in, drop it off. Guy calls me back around lunch and says, radiator's cracked. It's going to cost $800 to replace it. And I thought, okay, let me call my wife and figure out how we're going to do this. And I call my wife and I say, hon, I just talked to the guy at the shop. He said it's going to cost $800. And she says, well, it's okay. We have it. It's in the car account. And suddenly I was like, oh, that's how it's supposed to work.
Say that louder.
That's how this is supposed to work. We put the money aside already. And of course I hadn't actually taken the class yet. But when you get into the class, Dave Ramsey talks about how we save for the little emergencies. And that's exactly what it was. It's this little thing that seems like a big deal if you're not ready for it. But upon realizing that my lovely wife had helped me set aside that money, helped us put this money aside for that purpose, realizing, wow, we can just take care of it. Then the stress is gone. And now it's not a crisis, it's just a little bump in the road.
Great.
Yeah.
So that
Cool.
was a definite, like, enlightening story for me where I'm like, oh, I'm definitely on board with this now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the financial piece has been an awesome experience. And do you have how many classes left now?
4.
Four
Well,
classes.
no,
Yeah.
4 was tonight, so there's 3 remaining. We have
Okay. Yeah.
7, 8, and 9
Yeah.
of weeks 7, 8, and 9. Yeah. So,
Excellent.
yeah, we at this point we've covered budgeting. Everyone in the class is now doing a budget night that they're doing with their spouse. We've started. We quantified what was it, around $400,000 of class debt that will be, I think, paid off in the next 2 years. So between 4 different households, 5, I guess, if you count mine, that's a huge chunk of money that's going to be kind of wiped out just by having a system.
That's awesome.
And I think it's the same way. If you're trying to grow in anything, having a system to grow in that area. And so if money stresses are something that you guys have, I couldn't recommend. I've been doing the Dave Ramsey budgeting process for 6.5 years with my spouse, and yeah, when you know without a shadow of a doubt, I just went over budget in a category. It really does allow you to be like, well, I guess I'm going to be utilizing this category is going to be on a freeze, and this category is going to be on a freeze for the remainder of the month, so I know I don't go over budget on the whole month. So it gives you this huge amount of clarity that otherwise you wouldn't have. So
That's great. There's also a great, at the same time, they've got the Spanish financial piece running as well, and that also seems to be going very well, and people seem to be responding very
there's
well.
45 people in that class. That's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
And I think they're going to do some pretty amazing stuff. So yeah.
So on that topic also, let's shift gears a little bit. Leyden, talk about your job. You are the director.
I'm the director of Hispanic Ministry for the Diocese of Kansas City, St. Joseph. So that means that I'm responsible for ministering to the needs of the Hispanic community throughout the diocese. That includes all of KCMO through St. Joseph, which can include some very rural areas. So work with migrant farmers. I work with generational Hispanics, people who have been here for many generations, and they just have a spirituality that is very based in a lot of their culture. So their culture is a point of reference for their spiritual life. And for newly migrated groups who are first, second generation Latinos. And yeah, it's super rewarding. I love it. It's really also very hard because you are seeing sometimes people's really hard realities. And you can't help but let your heart bleed a little bit. But at the same time, it's also really like anything that you do for God's people, it's just, you grow more than the person you're helping. You're just like, oh my gosh, what a privilege to be able to help somebody. What a privilege that I get paid to talk about Jesus.
Right.
Like, this is my job.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I have the best product
This
of
is
all.
the best thing ever.
My product works 100% of the time.
My product sells itself.
Do you think that way?
Yes,
that's pretty awesome.
It is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
it's
it
great.
is. Especially because I've had secular jobs, and this is
And how long have you been at the job?
I have been at this position since March of this year.
Yeah.
So it's so
Still kind of
relatively-
learning the ropes and getting acclimated and everything.
Yes, and thanks be to God, I have a really great team that I work with, and that has enabled me to, sort of scale it a little bit quicker, and some really great ministries that I steward that I'm very privileged to be a part of, and that has also helped that transition period not to be quite as painful. And then, hard decisions that you make in any situation. Are you okay? I feel like...
I'm constantly checking technology. It's the nature.
Maybe you were
Are you
staring
okay?
at the pen.
Hi.
No, it's the-
I just want to minister to you because that's what I do.
Is there anything I can fix for you, Michael? I'm a problem solver. Do you have
Let
any
me help
problems?
you.
All right, yeah. Well, we'll cover that off camera.
Okay. Call me if you need any assistance.
Yes.
Very good. Well, we're blessed to have you doing that, and we hopefully we can work on some, because I was working with your predecessor. I was mentioning that before too, Miguel, and so there's some opportunities to work together in the crossing the state line there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
If
very
you're
good.
curious, Hispanics are the largest rapidly growing population, and also the ones that are carrying a lot of the faith. So unfortunately, in this post-Christian world, we are finding that there are pockets of places where Hispanics are literally holding the Catholic faith together. So support where you can.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we're very blessed, as you know, here at Good
Yes.
Shepherd. We got a very active community and a very welcoming community, really.
Amen.
Here at from both sides. I think that it's not always the case that you start up a Hispanic ministry and people are like, "Whoa, let's do that."
Let's do that.
That's that was, from what I've heard, is not entirely, but mostly the case here at Good Shepherd.
Yeah.
That people have been very supportive of the ministry, and then we're looking for opportunities to continue to cross those lines, right? To have opportunities for us to work together, like we had the fall festival, which is a wonderful opportunity. We had we were talking about the combined parish council, I think it was last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We had both the English council and the Spanish council, and that was we'd never done that before, and that was a really neat thing to bring us together. And we can't do that every meeting, but because it's very slow working bilingually.
Yes.
It's a process, and I think everyone, the nature of community is just be as communicative and interactive as you possibly can, because everyone in the community is trying to do exactly what you are, which is trying to find their place.
That's what I love about the United States, though, is that it's just like a little bit of heaven, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to have an Anglo heaven, a Hispanic heaven, a Chinese heaven.
Yeah.
It's all going to be heaven, and
Right.
in this great country, we get to see the great experiment.
Sure.
God helping, working through us, knocking our heads together
Sure.
until we get it, that
Yeah.
it's about communion one with the other. And the overarching thing that holds us together is our Catholic faith. It doesn't matter. And I've been to masses in languages that I do not understand, but I understand the rubrics. Stand up, kneel down. Okay, everybody does not do that here. Okay, we do it, and you get it. You get what's coming up next. And at the end of it, ta-da, you get Jesus.
Yeah.
So you know what, the end goal of that. So
If you ever get to go to a Maronite Rite Catholic Mass, it rocks. Especially if you go to one of the high masses for them, or a feast day. There's processing of the Eucharist all around. The music is beautiful. And if there's ever a feast afterwards, you're going to have some of either the best hummus or the best. They're like the local traditions and the cultures that kind of like you said, we all bring
do they
something.
do the bread at that mass, like where they do the
bread of the face, where it dips and I think they do, but I don't know if it's at all.
I went to an Eastern Rite Mass that did that with these like really holy sisters in Livingston, New York.
Oh man!
And oh my gosh, I mean, they're so like. The rites are so beautiful, and the sisters' liturgy is so beautiful. It's an Eastern rite, and you see their like glowing faces because they're completely covered. And you see their glowing faces, and you're like, man, holiness is so good for the skin.
Yeah,
they're really. I mean, it's for no reason to be holy.
Yeah, if nothing
really
else,
your
pores just
complexion.
Forget about a day at the spa. Spend a day at chapel.
Yeah. The best spa day is the one at the Eucharistic Adoration Chapel, which is another. We'll save it for another. Let's go local.
Well, let's go right into them talking about chapel. Let's talk about our prayer findings this week. So moving right along to our next thing. So for me, my prayer findings last week, I was talking about the book Conversion, which I thought I had in my bag today, but I don't. It's over at the rectory. But by Father Donald Haggerty. I'm still reading that book. I don't have any particular new findings from that I can remember, but it was really good. So I'm kind of in the same spot that I was last week, and I'm doing my spiritual reading, and it's a great book, so I recommend that. Father Donald Haggerty, I think is the name. The book is called Conversion. I'll put that in the show notes as well. I'm really enjoying rereading that. That's at least my second time reading the book, and maybe my third. So that's kind of where my prayer findings is that spiritual reading of that book.
Yeah, my prayer finding this week has been just a reiteration of something that we've been doing for a number of weeks now, but it's these rosary meditations. if you've been watching this at all, I think we've now recommended this 5 or 6.
Like
we're going to be in
both
double
on board.
digits
Yeah.
really soon. But the nature of when you come to prayer, I think oftentimes you feel like, what do I have to say? What do I need to be doing right now? Am I even into the prayer? And I think the beauty of meditation that these rosary meditations bring in is you take the rote prayer and it actually inserts religious meditations of let's contemplate the life of Jesus at this point, or let's contemplate the life of the saints, or let's contemplate some holy aspect that you can actually then take and say, okay, I can actually apply that to my life. And you're talking 23 minutes out of your day, and it yields fruits because I'm finding myself applying these little things into other areas of life and moving the needle. But the other one that I have to mention is this Litany of Trust by the Sisters of Life. And it is a rock solid, quick litany. My wife and I were doing it for a number of weeks. I think maybe a couple months we had it going where we would say it every night before we'd go to bed together. And it's like from the desire of being
Retweeted.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, it's trusting that God will provide the needs that you actually need, not the needs that you want. From the desire of being preferred to others.
Is that the same as a litany of humility?
No, it's got nuances that are different, but it's very, very close.
Okay.
And so the litany of humility is awesome, but like when things don't go my way, right? Deliver me, Jesus. And when things, of course I would have brought it had I not gone to the Good Shepherd Chipotle fundraiser
Foiled
night.
by food.
I've been foiled by food again.
Maybe you should go vegan.
But it's important,
For your holiness, just
we're going to get back to that, okay? Don't you steal my personal thunder for later. Do you guys have any prayer findings you want to share? Anything that's come up in prayer recently that?
Thankfulness.
Yeah,
I would
gratitude?
say that's, so as Father Kent knows, I recently had another birthday. I made it. Had my folks in town. We had Father Kent come over to the house, and sitting there and having my whole family gathered around the table. Leyden's mom lives with us, my mother-in-law. Mm-hmm. So we had everybody around the table. We had my sister come over from Lawrence, and we just had this great night. And I've been kind of touching back to that night frequently, and just thinking, how thankful I am to have such wonderful family and friends that will just come together and support me and just be there for me. And thank God I'm able, I'm working, and our biggest challenge is paying off our debt.
That's cool.
That's a good place to be.
It's great.
Yeah.
Any particular
prayer findings? I am trying to find my prayer.
It's worth finding.
It is. So I think whenever I feel dry spells, like right now, I would say that, no, it's hard to say because there are some deep consolations, but I would say whenever I find myself in a dry place in prayer, the Liturgy of the Hours almost always pulls me right out, because when I don't have the right things to say, the Psalms say it for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just happen to hit on a day where the Psalm is really speaking to you.
Yeah.
And you can really, my enemies, they buzz around me. They buzz around like bees, and you're like, yeah, they buzz all the time. And it's, so I would say the Liturgy of the Hours. It's super easy. Breviary, I think it's called.
It is. It's on the
on the
phone. I could probably
phone.
put a
There's
little
so many
link on that
ways
one,
that you
too.
can find it.
And it's free.
And it's the Liturgy of the Church. You're accompanying
the other liturgy of the church.
The other liturgy of the church. The continual liturgy
Yeah.
of the church. So it's really beautiful. That Litany of Humility, I think that's beautiful. I'm not going to get into the nuances between this one and the Litany of the Trust. Let's let the intellectual property lawyers go at that one.
Yeah.
Sisters of Life.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a hard one because he really will bring the humiliation on. Like if you ask God for humility, he'll be like, okay,
you will be humiliated.
Game on.
You will be humiliated.
Will
like they will literally have you fall up the stairs like 4
Yeah.
times that week,
Or like
with all
toilet
your
paper
friends
on your,
watching. Yeah,
on
yeah.
your shoe or
Yeah.
whatever.
And you're like, I didn't even go to this bathroom. How did that?
I wasn't
Yeah,
even in the bathroom today. Yeah.
I'm wearing sweatpants, and how is my fly down? Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, you just run with it.
That's exactly it. Or from it.
Yeah. So one other thing on this is if you need any of these, please check the comments down below. Father Kent does a phenomenal job of kind of taking a lot of the nuggets from this and making little links so you can check them out. Also, like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video.
Very good. Yeah, so and I usually can't do that until the day after. I guess YouTube takes a while to process the video, and so I don't sit around here for another hour or two until it's all ready. So I usually do that the next day. So check out that. So now our next thing is about media findings, and we talk about some book or some movie or something that's been good for our spiritual life, or some little recommendation that we might make. And do you want to go first? You had a recommendation, I believe.
So one of the holy men that I really enjoyed listening to and got a lot out of going through my own personal reversion was Father Larry Richards.
Hey, when did Father Larry Richards join us?
He's not there yet. There he is.
But he has a website, thereasonforourhope.org, and I think Father Kent will be linking that. But for a guy, he's kind of in your face. He's a little bit brash, but he's not afraid to tell you exactly where you're screwing up. Mm-hmm. Going to confession with that guy has got to be amazing. He talks about it. When you go into confession with him, he'll sit you down and say, okay, do you want to go through confession, or do you want me to ask the questions? If you have him ask the questions, he'll start working his way through the commandments for you. And even just listening to him talk about it will help you have a better confession.
Amen.
So definitely check him out. He's got some books out. There's a Father Larry Richards Bible that's got some stuff in there that's it's all about helping you be a better man.
Yeah. He really doesn't do much for the women's ministry, does he?
But
okay.
It's an important charism.
He does have a wonderful sermon that you'll hear on Catholic radio that he gives at weddings. That does touch on women, but it's definitely a lot about being in your face for the men.
Yeah.
And
which is necessary.
Men respond to challenge, and he challenges you.
Yeah. We have a lot of watered down men in our culture.
Amen.
It's nice to have them full flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Same great flavor. All the calories.
Woo! Yeah.
Double the fat. Woo!
So
Twice as many
not
calories.
Father Larry Light.
Yeah, we don't need diet Father Larry. How many more things are you intending to?
Well, I was trying to click the right thing, and I'm going to put this on my head again, but I can't
You know
move
what?
this thing.
Just
So there it
put
goes.
it
It's,
right
on,
over
it's
your-
on my head again.
Father
So
is
what
the
do
book
you,
now.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, what
I
do you
guess
got there?
that's mine.
That is yours.
So my pick is Emily Stimson Chapman's The Catholic Table. Since we're coming up on Advent and Christmas and Thanksgiving, the holidays are coming, you're going to have a lot of people around. This is a fantastic book that touches on the biblical roots of how we eat and why we eat. She makes these beautiful analogies and these beautiful comparisons between sharing a table, Catholic table, and the Eucharist. And I found it so evocative and prayerful and beautiful. And if you have a difficult relationship with food, and I'm not saying that this will cure you of any of those things, I'm saying that she's a person who discovering the Eucharist helped her come out of an eating disorder. And she has just a very beautiful way of sharing that story and sharing this. So if you love to eat, she's got recipes in there. If you love to share, she's got tips of how to open your home to people. And if you love Jesus, she's got a lot of Jesus in there too. So
what was the name of the book again?
The Catholic Table. She also has a website, a blog that she doesn't update as often as she used to, but it's also called The Catholic Table.
Is there any tips you want to share for this upcoming week, since next week's Thanksgiving? Any tip for Catholic tables during Thanksgiving week?
Yeah. Heidi in Ridgeview does a beautiful job catering. I can give you the number.
Yeah. We give a lot of free referrals here.
If you need to know that.
And if you'd like Hy-Vee and Ridgeview, if you'd like to cater our
That
next
way.
Tuesday Night Live.
And the hardest thing you
yeah.
can
Bring
open
the
is a
roast
bottle
beef,
of wine.
specifically.
Yeah,
That's right.
apparently we're supposed to get the roast beef. And speaking of
gosh.
roast beef, should I talk about beef?
Go for it.
No. So my media findings this week was so we've got next week is the largest shopping day of the entire year for a lot of companies, and they will make up almost 50% of what their profits will be for the Christmas season will happen on Friday of next week. And
It's Black Friday.
it's
See?
Black Friday. Yeah, it's so the seals just blind you to the things that are going on. But it's also it's followed by Cyber Monday and then Giving Tuesday, and you can be charitable whilst shopping. So let's say you're shopping on Amazon. There is a link you can go to smile.amazon.com, and you can actually link a portion of the sale to a lot of great institutions. For a while, my wife and I were donating to Catholic Charities of Northeast Kansas, which is a great organization if you're looking for someplace to donate to. I don't believe we have a.
Not that I'm aware of.
yeah,
the first I heard about it was today. So.
Yeah, so I don't think there's one for Good Shepherd, but if Good Shepherd if you ask for it, I'm sure we can get somebody to eventually get it going.
Yeah.
So as you're shopping, this is a great way if you're going to already be shopping on Amazon during the Black Friday, or Cyber Monday, or if you're just wanting to be doing things on Giving Tuesday. You can also do something called I Give Catholic. But before I get there, you can link the charities and you go to smile.amazon.com. And I Give Catholic, you want me to talk about that before you go?
Yeah.
Okay, so I Give Catholic is we have a partnered relationship with El Buen Pastor, our twinning parish, and that is where our donations are going to be going to, and it's a great opportunity for you to even this coming Tuesday. Let's say you're doing a Financial Peace University through someplace else, which is sad because you're missing out on some wonderful people. But let's say you're doing some sort of budget night. If you've got an upcoming Tuesday and you're saying, hey, I might get a raise at the end of this year, I think we have a little extra money to give. Good Shepherd's a fantastic place to give to. I Give Catholic's a fantastic place to give to. As you're shopping online throughout the year, you can always do that smile.amazon. And then also, if you're trying to save money, there's two tools, Honey and WikiBuy, that I talked about. If you watched last week's episode, you can talk about that app or that extension. So a lot of great resources. Check out the stuff.
Awesome. Terry says there is a smile page for the Good Shepherd on Amazon. Is that
There
is
is?
that our Good, or is it Good Shepherd in like Alabama?
Yeah.
Or some guy named Good Shepherd.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's,
I'm really good at shepherding.
that's right. He has
Make sure it's Good Shepherd,
Shawnee.
Shawnee.
Cool. I didn't know about that.
Can we
Thanks,
get me
Terry.
up there, my
Yeah.
Sephora fund?
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
My media finding, I'm going this way. See, by the way, in case this screen is like our setup screen, and so it's not live until it goes over to that little screen. That's how
Yeah.
that works. So
It's
see, it's
little
not really
one.
there until I click this button here. And now I'm going to make this recommendation for
Mhm.
the book that Michael was talking about way back in season 1, I think it was. Remember way back in season 1?
See, look,
so
I'm
there-
passing this book
Very good.
recommendation over.
So I've been raking a lot of leaves, and I need something to listen to. And I had this book on what is it called?
Audible.
That's the one, Audible, and I've been really enjoying it. I'd been enjoying it earlier, but I was picking it up again, and it is great. And Michael's right, and which he usually is. And it's a
He is so full of it. This is a bold-faced lie.
No,
Like 60% of the time at best.
Oh,
that's still
50.
most. That's still most.
Yeah,
of
You're
the
right.
time.
All right.
That's
Yeah.
like math.
Factually
Wait, you're in
correct.
math? Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. From our teacher,
Okay.
there's one of the 40% at least.
I said at best. I didn't say the majority of the time. I was talking about my best moments. So, all right, let's go.
And hearing this really after coming just so recently after the Holy Land as well, it's really the stuff is coming to life again about the connections between like the sacrifice that is happening with the pouring out of the lamb and the talking about the manna that came down from heaven. It's just a beautiful book, and really, I don't know how you could read this book or listen to this book and not say, man, the Eucharist is awesome, and that's the way that Jesus had designed it. And it's all about the Jewish connection because it's beautiful the way that it connects it. So
I've had slightly more time to digest this because
Okay.
it is there's a lot of meat there. This book is the best way to kind of understand what would Jews have understood prior to meeting Christ. And so it's kind of like giving you the backstory of like, what would Peter have known prior to meeting Jesus? And what would, Matthew and just kind of, and James and John and just what would they have known prior to...
Right. And what would be their expectation of the Messiah? What would be their expectation of the Eucharist and how,
So it goes through like every messianic promise of what would the Messiah do, and he solves them all. But you got to read the book. It's awesome.
Great.
I'm
Got
gonna
it.
get on.
Right,
You
so
got
there's
it.
our
Go
media
to smiles.amazon.com.
No, that's Audible.
And then
That's
buy
Audible.
me the book for Christmas.
Oh.
Double charity.
There we go.
Ooh, I like this. So
Don't get any
it is-
ideas, people. Everybody gets one. No. Yeah.
Leyden's looking for a Christmas gift, so
You write that
show
down.
her show your appreciation for the Krulls by getting them this book on smile.amazon.com
And donate to Good Shepherd.
and buy them then cater their meal from Hy-Vee.
Yeah. You could just get them a reading night catered in with Hy-Vee beef
That sounds like a
And
great
wine.
idea.
and wine.
And wine.
And wine. Not too
Very
picky on that.
So we're running a little bit long here. Just
Okay.
any quick personal notes or anything from personal interests?
We're personally interesting.
I was just going to
That's
make
all
a
we
little
have?
recommendation of a couple music recommendations. One is myself, and one is I haven't talked about my music really at all, but I do music.
Do you?
I do music.
You
yes,
do?
I do. And so I've recorded some music. But the first one I wanted to recommend is this guy by the name of Michael Card. We'll move that. That's on your face again. I'll move it down to me. So Michael Card, he is one of my favorite. He's not Catholic, but his theology is so great. I think he's Lutheran. One of my favorite, there's this debate about when do you listen to Christmas music or whatever. This album called Unveiled Hope, it's based on the book of Revelation, which we're reading at the end of the year, kind of, and then
Yes.
we get into that kind of in Advent. This is kind of my favorite pre-Advent and beginning of Advent album, because then it also kind of sounds Christmassy because it's majestic and they've got strings and so it's it kind of feels Christmassy, but it's not Christmassy yet, and then it puts you in the sense of Revelation. So I just want to recommend you can get it on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you want to listen to music. Anyway, Unveiled Hope. And I'm mentioning this also because we're not going to have we're not going to be live. There's not going to be not live or anything.
Yeah.
We're taking a week off, Thanksgiving week, so there's not going to be anything. So that's why.
So
I
you
wanted
can
to
give
recommend.
thanks for that as well.
That's right.
You get a week off from us.
So I wanted to recommend that. And then
You can catch up on previous episodes.
Yeah.
So you can
I
see-
do have
Binge watch the whole season.
with your family and friends, gather around the
just
table.
get around it and just
enjoy
big
it.
blankets and a bowl of popcorn,
Who needs to
maybe
watch The
some roast
Mandalorian?
beef from
Watch
Hy-Vee.
Tuesday Night Live.
pads and pens and just go down.
And then I also do have an Advent album. I'm just showing this because people don't. I had someone telling me about it's a relic. See, people know what these things are. It's called a CD, a compact disc. It was a form of entertainment back in the 1990s.
If you have the technology was called a CD player.
Right, they actually play these things.
Yeah.
But you can, and I wouldn't promote this myself if it wasn't free. So you can get it on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. But it is my Advent album, and I recorded it not just for myself. So if you want to, and what I do in this album is I kind of take you through the journey of Advent. That's the idea. So like the first Sunday of Advent, and then so the album, the idea is it gets kind of progressively more and more Christmassy, as it goes
beautiful.
along. So I'm just recommending this now because we don't have anything next week. And the first song is called "Get Ready," which is based on the first Sunday of Advent, because that's what we all hear about in the first Sunday. So anyway, I'll just put that plug in. So I like doing music and I like recording music, and so I thought I'd just mention that in my personal interest. Notice that's not my media finding; that's just my personal interest.
Well,
So-
one personal interest that I have, especially since we're not having one next week, in preparation of kind of Thanksgiving and being around your family, one thing that you can do to kind of give thanks for being Catholic is we have absolution and confession. So you can kind of prepare yourself spiritually, kind of clean out the old stuff that's dragging you down, or maybe some of the weight that end of year is always kind of stressful with most people's jobs. So it's an opportunity to kind of prepare yourself. Check out masstimes.org and click the little confession tab. It can geographically locate what's the nearest confession time for you, and you can say, I'm only available on Mondays. Well, here's all the Monday confessions. So there is no excuse to avoid the most successful diet in history, which is confession.
Diet of worms.
Diet, yeah. Well, that's
it's a theology joke.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't feel like a joke. It feels hard.
Anything else you want to share on a personal level or anything that you've got?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that. I'm going to say that there are some great confession apps. There's this one. I want to say that mine is called I Confess, but I'm not 100% sure.
It doesn't actually absolve you, though, does it?
No, but it's what it's really great, and it's actually Father, I've already done it.
Yeah. Actually, I
confessed to my
phone,
and then I posted about it because it was awesome.
Yeah. Siri.
Just got absolved.
Don't tell Siri your sin. That seems like a really bad idea.
Because then Apple people are going to read it. So no, what it does is that it walks you through all of the commandments and the sins therein, and you can. So, for instance, let's say the one about killing. Right, there's one like that. It'll walk you through some things that you could potentially have done, not necessarily actually killed somebody, but maybe provoked anger or whatever, and you can drag it for my next confession. So you remember, okay, these are the things that and you can write notes in it. That's
a great app.
I got angry. Yeah, I think it's called. I'd have to check 100% to be sure, but I'll send it before so you can put it in the notes. But it's fantastic. You can you can create a password for it so no one can get into it. And you can write notes about your confession or what Father has given you as an absolution so you don't forget. Or and it's a good way to reflect on if you find yourself confessing the same things over and over. Sometimes you can figure if there's a root vice that you're attached to. And it's been, for me, if I can't find a confessor, somebody that I'm constantly going to, which I did have, and I recommend if you can find a confessor, it's fantastic. This is really a good tool to help you just examine, what are the things I'm confessing a lot?
What do I need to unpack here?
Who's the Father that gives me the hardest absolutions, and when is he not on a
I've done that. Yeah.
That's spectacular. I've never heard of such a thing. It's great.
It's a pretty good app.
So great. Keith, anything you got?
Not a whole lot to add to that, really, other than I can't believe nobody jumped on the fact that, Advent is a little Lent.
Oh, yeah.
So, it is another season in the church of preparing ourselves and, as was stated, kind of cleaning out the closet and getting yourself ready for the coming of our Lord.
Well, that Father Larry Richards confession questionnaire is also a really great way to do it as well. So, yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being on our show, our special guest. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and we have gone a little bit long. We said it is not 9:30, but it's been.
I told you if we aimed for 9:30, we were going to get done before 10:15. So we are clean.
So far ahead.
Yeah. All right.
Well, so why don't we close out in prayer? I opened up with prayer, so I will let one of the three of you close us in prayer.
Well, he was holy, yeah.
Holy Moses. You are so holy. Okay. Do you want to do?
Sure.
Okay.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Lord, we thank you for this time that you've given us. We thank you for our reflections and our camaraderie and friendship. And we thank you for any of those watching who may have been touched by anything any one of us said. We ask that you would bring your blessings down upon them and upon all who watch this. Amen.
Amen.
Let no scandal fall among us, and please don't let it be me. Amen.
Amen.
Well, thanks again for tuning in. I just turned off my mouse there, so we will not be live or not live next week. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
And
end it.
We have to do this thing.
End it. Oh, we're out of content. We got nothing left.